Good afternoon. We'll call a meeting, call to order meeting, the Commissioners Finance meeting weekly. Occurrence we have here. Today's March 16, appointed hours 1:30. We'll begin with the requisite opportunity for public comment. Do we have anyone? There's nobody here or there. So we'll move on to item 3 at this point. We have minutes in hand of our March 10 meeting. That is need action.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, but I believe it should state March 9th.
Oh yeah, the agenda should state the proper address, date of March 9, which does appear on the minutes. So no need to modify the minutes. The agenda is wrong. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, that moves us into our topics of discussion today. Item 4. First up, we have our library system. We're going to talk about conditional funding.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me here this afternoon to talk to you about the conditional grants, give you a little update on where we are. We have created 5 steering committees. There are 5 different parts of the grant. I don't know if you had a copy of it with you or not. I'll kind of breeze through the topics lightly. But we've formed 5 steering committees to work on each one of them. And we plan to come back and do updates. Thanks to Annie for arranging. We have updates scheduled for June, September, and December to come back and talk to you. And I think the new updates will be much more substantial. Tammy asked about handouts, and I will have handouts in the future when we have a little bit more substance to the progress. But right now we've been forming these steering committees. Each has its own team leader. They've met multiple times with their teams to form more concrete goals and milestones to measure their success. And some of these goals are still in the inquiry phase. They're still data gathering, and some have progressed to some substantial hands-on work. So just to briefly go through all 5 of them, the first one is the success and future plans for our Outlook and Microsoft 365 project. We were able to complete the migration of Outlook, get the member libraries off of the tenant for the county and get them onto the library systems tenant. And I really appreciate the efforts of IMTO. They had a consultant, we had a consultant. Between the 4 bodies, they were able to make a very smooth transition to the point where some people barely noticed anything happened if they didn't know. Staff went in and updated their computer. So we're well on our way to that. Some of the things that are happening next with that is we need to build Active Directory and then start getting SharePoint and Teams up and going. But all our member libraries will be moved completely off the county's tenant on March 30th. So we have a firm cutoff date for that, and still plans to continue to meet with IMTO because we're learning a lot from each other along the way. The second one is cybersecurity. And in that one, we have started, the team has had an informal risk assessment and an internal view of the controls that we currently have in place and kind of identified some places where we have weaknesses. We've been meeting with a couple of different companies to perhaps engage in the services of a consultant. We want to definitely work with a different consultant than the person who's doing our Outlook migration, just to separate the people who are doing this work and the people who are going to keep us, hopefully keep us secure. So Foresight is the first company that we met with, and we have 2 others in line. So we're meeting with them. We also have a name of someone to meet with about cybersecurity insurance. He's sort of a consultant to walk us through that process. And we're learning all about cybersecurity controls that insurance carriers are going to be looking for, so that we can hopefully get those risks in place before we go looking for insurance. So we'll be a low risk candidate for insurance. So trying to get a low risk profile. So we're doing some things there, but a lot more in the works in the next 3 months. Under the social services and social work goal, we have, of course, our goal is to develop partnerships, and we have reached out, and there's been great receptiveness from other departments within the county. I've talked to people from Children and Youth, Office of Aging, Mental Health, Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities, Adult Reentry Program, and Drug and Alcohol so far. And much more discussion to be had with them. It's just been an initial outreach to them. We're hoping to be able to have them come and do some educational events with our staff. Right now, we have the videos on the website that they can watch. Not everybody knows what these departments do. So we're getting our own little education, but then have them talk to us about their needs and ways that we might be able to help with their departments. We also have listed on our plan of agencies to contact public safety, juvenile probation, adult probation and parole, and then other services within the county like domestic violence and the CASA program and the Cumberland County Housing and Redevelopment Authority. So just a little bit of work on that one. One of the most exciting ones was actually Drug and Alcohol reaching out to me and asking me about doing the locks boxes in libraries. So that's definitely one we're exploring. And I brought Jeff along with me today. I'm sorry, I failed to introduce Jeff.
They don't
Jeff.
know me.
And so Jeff, it was funny after we had this conversation, they got back to me and said, this library's already taking the training on that. So we already had a library started on down that road. So that's exciting. Our work with schools within the county, where we've involved some community members in that particular steering committee. It's not just, I mean, all of our groups are made up of different people on staff, not just library directors and not just my staff, but that one has some community members involved in the team. We involved GIS in the initial data gathering. They made us a really nice map so that we could talk about how library service areas mesh with school districts and see that visually and have that conversation. So that was super helpful of them to do. And now they're focusing, they developed a survey for all the library directors, because they don't all sit on the steering committee, to focus on what they're already doing and what efforts they believe might be most effective for them in working with schools and building partnerships.
So you're getting mostly warm reception from the schools?
We haven't reached out directly to any schools yet. We've the two contacts that we've had, one at Shippensburg School District and one at Cumberland Valley, and it's not the principal. It's it's ACT. Oh goodness, what their title?
Title I.
Thank you. I was like, what's the number? Easy to remember. Title I. So she sits on one of them sits on the Title I committee. Another one is a school librarian, and so oversees all the libraries for Cumberland Valley schools. So just reaching out and talking to them, but not.
I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
It was an effort a while back to try to connect the library system to some of the school libraries, and most of the schools were extremely territorial.
Yeah.
Really didn't want to.
Yeah, so we're trying to find some other avenues. We have also another avenue we're taking is developing. We developed a letter to send out to school superintendents just to let them know what's available. And we started with our ebooks, because there's a component that the school libraries can get, that they can use our ebooks for free without having to get an actual library card. And we still can see the circulation and the activity. So it's a pretty nice system. And unfortunately, we only heard from one school and they said, no, thank you. But there were also many schools that just did it and didn't tell us. And so we got a list from our vendor. I'm sorry, I didn't bring the number, but I believe it was around 7 or 8 school buildings that are using it now. So East Pennsboro was the most recent to sign on. So that was exciting. So we've had some progress from that letter, and we want to do more letters like that with more of our services, just to make sure they know. But some of the things the schools have been talking about are things like, I mean, there's the obvious, like creating relationships with school libraries and staff, but encouraging teachers to give extra credit for doing programs or participating in school library, in career days at libraries, school libraries. another one that I saw that looked really interesting to me, but just like attending PTO meetings and we're doing presentations at in-service days for teachers, those sorts of things. Again, we've done some of these in the past, but really a more focused effort on those. And then the last one, we on data and looking at our data and focusing our program based on what our findings from that data. That group got together. Jeff is the leader of that group, and we came to a shared belief that our decisions need to be data driven. And so we've been outlining how we would gather data sources and determine where our focus areas are going to be. And we're taking classes to educate ourselves on what the data means, specifically on census data right now. There's a Census Academy. I don't know if you've checked that out, but it's pretty amazing. I talked with Kirk Stoner yesterday just about what is being offered on the census website, and it's so extensive and so interesting. So those classes have been really beneficial to us. I'm trying to get my staff able to extract data and put it in some usable form that the libraries can use based on the initiatives that this steering committee comes up with. And so Jeff brought a handout that could kind of explain their group if you want to see that. I didn't have it in time for the packet because the team was meeting on Friday afternoon. So do you want me to hand these out? 1, 2, 3. Absolutely. But this is just an example of what each of the teams is doing. And thank you. And that his team's outlined. And so, we're hoping at the end we'll have some real direction on what to do with the data that we discover. So is there anything I can answer for you? Any questions I can answer now or through meeting follow-up?
I wanted to ask Carolyn, when you went down through the list of county groups that you had contacted, was one of them by chance children and youth?
Yes, that was
Okay, I will call you later.
Okay.
We just had a meeting, an advisory board meeting yesterday, and so I owe you a phone call.
Okay.
I think that there's an idea.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I just heard from Annie Hall yesterday about the possibility of doing something with Medicare 101 workshops. So a lot of things are coming out of just talking to people and saying, we're open to this, we want to get people out and we want to be able to work with them.
Carolyn, if I could just add one thought about the handout.
Yeah.
One, because I actually sit on
Yeah,
all
it's the
three of the
same.
team. Is that if you look at least at this as a sample of what one of the groups is doing, we want to go beyond just the original goal of gathering data and build infrastructure so that we are able to plan now for how we're going to continue these things into the future. So once we understand data, how do we build that into the infrastructure of what we do on an ongoing basis? And we're looking at that in all three groups. How do we ensure that once we've built a relationship with the schools, that at a system level, we are able to maintain a relationship? So it's some infrastructure building as well. And that's been a big part of some of our early discussions, rather than, hey, let's gather data and do 2 projects and then
Call it done.
It's how to build the infrastructure for this.
So really all there's, I think of them as 2 technology goals and 3 people goals, and the people ones that have much more long-term work on the part of our member libraries where cybersecurity, yes, it's more work, but we don't have to do new things. But I think with the others, we'll keep building on that and doing new initiatives in the future. So any questions or comments that you want to share? Anything I can provide you with?
It's pretty good update.
Okay,
Thanks, Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
See you in June.
Thanks for being here. Okay, we have another discussion item on tap here, and that is the discussion possible motion for the county's participation in litigation regarding the proposed holding of Interstate 83, specific to the South Bridge, Texas Shore. Stacy, I guess you're.
Yeah, so I don't really have much to share here. I will point out that I believe that rather than a possible motion, this is up for motion today. This is actually an action requested item today. But this is the next step that is required in order to participate in the litigation that is to be filed imminently. And I would just point out that as a motion is drafted, it does need to indicate that it is subject to court approval. Any questions for me?
I have none. We've looked at this pretty extensively. There's been a lot of attention paid to this. So we're looking for the motion.
So I will move to authorize Cumberland County to participate in I-83 tolling litigation through the law firm of Salzman Hughes PC, subject to court approval.
Didn't we want to mention the amount?
That is true. And I believe that based on the polling that Solicitor Brenneman did, 25,000 was the agreed upon amount.
I will amend the motion to say that I would move to authorize Cumberland County to participate in I-83 tolling litigation through the law firm of Salzman Hughes PC, subject to court approval, with the contingency that the county will contribute $25,000 to the cost of litigation, and will reserve the right to possibly increase that amount in time.
Acceptable.
Thinking about it. Initial contribution, no further contributions will be provided unless it's approved by the Board of Commissioners. But I think the way you stated the motion covers that. So I will second the motion. Okay.
All right, so it is moved and it is seconded. And any further thoughts, questions on the motion before we take the vote?
Yeah, I think Keith mentioned that in his reply is that the state pretty much is here as a contribution. We're not obligated to anything else unless we approve it, which is really what Gene stated.
Would require further action.
Further action,
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have acceptable formal motion and second is agreed to. So all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
They're not opposed. The motion passes unanimously. Okay. Very good. Anything additional on that issue? Or nothing. So we'll move on to item 5, which is opportunity for other business to come before the board. Speak now or forever hold your peace. So with that, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Stand adjourned.